We are now. Cool. All right, President Hart, it is a little after 9:30 a.m. and we can begin this month's parent council meeting.
All right, good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, February 17th, and the time is 9:34, and I am going to call this regular virtual meeting of the P-CCS Parent Council to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here today. We're so glad that you were all able to join us. And I would like to introduce myself. My name is Judy Hart, and I am currently serving as this year's P-CCS Parent Council President. And I have several of our board members who are here today. One of our board members who is regularly here, who is our recording secretary, Andrea Schultz, is not here with us. She had to work during this time, and we thank her for being here. We know she's watching afterwards and will be diligently taking our notes and our minutes. And then starting with our vice president, I will let my other board members introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name is Pam Cornell Allen, and as Judy said, I am serving as the Parent Council Vice President, and I have children at West Middle School and Canton High School. Thank you.
Well, I guess I'll go next. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Antoinette Jackson, and I serve as our membership coordinator on the P-CCS Parent Council Board. I have a 9th grader at Salem High School. I have a 6th grader at Liberty Middle School and a 2nd grader at Dotson Elementary. So it's nice to see all you here.
Hi, my name is Anne Marie Garrity. I'm the corresponding secretary. So I'm the one that sends you all those lovely emails. And I have a 3rd grader at Gallimore and a 5th grader at Farron. And one quick thing, I saw some of you already did this, but in the chat, there is a link for a sign-in sheet. When we have our meetings in person, there's usually a sign-in sheet outside the board office. So if you could just take a moment, if you're here watching us live as we're doing this meeting, just signing in real quick, that would be very appreciated. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to thank my board members, Pam, Antoinette, Anne Marie, and Andrea, who I had mentioned is not here. Their work and their cooperative, just their collegiality that we have all shown this year, as well as previous years, for those who have been serving, it has been so incredibly appreciated. And the fact that we are having this meeting is just evidence that they have been nothing more than helpful, positive impacts on both our P-CCS Parent Council as well as our community and district. So thank you all for serving. It is a volunteer position and they all put a great amount of effort into it, and I greatly appreciate all of them. So thank you so much, gals, for being here today. On that note, I am kind of pre-announcing, because we will officially be announcing in March that we will be holding elections for our P-CCS Parent Council board members. So if you have been someone who has repeatedly been interested, has been here either as a representative for your particular school, or you have just been viewing the meetings on the YouTube channel afterwards and feeling that you want to be involved, feel free to email us at parentcouncil@pccsk12.com, which will be noted on the agenda as well as our minutes. We will be holding our yearly elections this year in April, which is our second to last meeting. We will be holding elections for each of the board positions, and in March, when I give the official announcement, that we will go over the descriptions of each of the board member job positions, as well as just giving you some information on how you could become your school's official representative. That being said as well, Anne Marie Garrity mentioned that she is the person who has been emailing and communicating with each of the schools. She communicates with not only the principals of each of the schools, but the parent council representatives, as well as each of your PTO or PFO organizations. So we want to make sure that each of you are getting that information of when our meetings are taking place, as well as the information afterwards that are found in the minutes. So if you want to reach out to us and let us know, we are trying to take every communication avenue possible, as well as on Facebook and other Twitter, I believe is what Andrea also might use. We're trying to use every avenue possible to make sure that everyone who is remotely interested in attending our meetings is able to be. January and February have been virtual meetings, and it was reflective not only of the virus cases, but also being able to be effectively accessible to more families, as well as, you know, our speakers taking part. So giving us feedback on that as well will be very important. Hopefully soon we will be in person and have that to be another way that we can all get together as well. I am looking for a motion to approve our parent council minutes from January. And Carly, if you are able to post those January minutes. I know each of our board members has had a copy of the January minutes, I think within the week of the January meeting. We also sent out the January minutes to every representative, an attendee and PTO representative. Let's see, do we have Carly on the? Oh.
Yeah, do you want me to share that on the screen for you?
Yeah, if you could, I would appreciate that. If you could share the January minutes on the screen. There we go. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes taken by Andrea Schultz from our January 18th meeting. As I had said, our parent council board members have had a copy where we approved and edited the details of the January 18th, as well as the representatives who have had a copy since shortly after the meeting. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the January minutes.
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
Thank you. Let it show that Antoinette Jackson motion to approve the January minutes and Pam Cornell Allen seconded. If you are an attendee for this meeting and you would like to get a copy of the minutes, we're happy to send you a copy afterwards. They are also posted after approval on our website. So on the motion to approve the January minutes, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Okay, let the minutes reflect that our board members approved the minutes 4-0, since we had 4 board members who are present today. Thank you very much. I'm now going to turn over to Anne-Marie Garrity, who is going to take attendance for our parent council representatives. If you are an official representative for your school, please let us know that you're here. If you are a representative and you are watching the meeting on the official P-CCS YouTube channel afterward, if you could please sign in attendance by emailing us at parentcouncil@pccsk12.com, so we know that you were here and that you communicated the most important items to your school.
Okay, so here we go. I'll just go in order, and if you're here, just say here, present, hi, whatever. Allen, Early Learning Academy. Bentley. Bird. Dotson.
Present.
Erickson. Farron, that's me. Field.
Present.
Gallimore, that's me. Hoban. Halsey,
Here.
Isbister. Miller. Smith. Tonda. Workman. Starkweather. Discovery Middle School. East Middle School. Liberty.
Present.
Pioneer.
Present.
West.
Here.
On to the high schools. Canton. Plymouth. Salem.
Present.
We're both here.
And then Virtual Academy K through 8. No. And then Virtual Academy High School. Okay, thank you.
Okay. There we go. We are going to move right. We have a very packed agenda today, and I would have to say that this meeting will probably reflect our most, for lack of a better word, our most normal agenda items to date in a very long time. I'm excited and thrilled to just be able to be bringing our experts in the district to explain some of the most normal yet somehow nerve-wracking items for our parents, but nerve-wracking and exciting in a normal, hopefully post-COVID world. And today we're going to be talking about middle school scheduling. I know that I did receive quite a few emails from parents who have said that they are here because they are either a 5th grade or an 8th grade parent, and they wanted more information about the process of scheduling as their students, either 8th graders moving on to the high school or 5th graders moving on to the middle school. As board members, I know that have been through that process more than once. Our students are going to be okay. It is a wonderfully exciting and nerve-wracking transition, but I am handing over the floor here to our expert, Anthony Ruella, who is our director of middle school, executive director of middle school data and school improvement. And he is going to let us know what our district, what our counselors and our staff members are doing to help prepare our families and our students for those transitions in scheduling. So thank you very much, Anthony, for being here.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome, Judy. I appreciate the opportunity to come talk to everyone. And so thank you for the invite. I will start with the 8th graders going to 9th grade, because really, you know, that is a high school function. So I'll talk how we partner with the high school to support the students as they're going through the scheduling process. So the high school has multiple opportunities for kids and families to learn about what's going on, what's offered at the park, curriculum nights, the academy nights. And I know that the past 2 years have made that more challenging because they've wind up, you know, virtual events. And then this year we had snow. So there's been lots of challenges there in doing what the high school likes to do, which is actually getting the students on their campus, right? You know, the park's a unique place and it really needs to be experienced. And those of you that have students in both levels, like I think you would probably agree, right? It kind of just, you know, the kids, we really need to get the students there. But once that piece happens, and that course selection window opens in MyStar, At the building level, once we started transitioning 8th graders to doing their course requests online, which is great because it allows, actually what it really does, to be completely honest, is it reduces the frequency of data entry errors. Believe it or not, like, hey, we're gonna have the kids input this information and it's gonna make it so that there's fewer errors, and it really does. And part of the reason for that is many of the student selections are pre-slugged already, like English 9, right? Things like that, where students don't have many options and many choices. So, you know, as we've developed this process at the middle school, the way it started out would be the high school counselors would come down, we'd put our kids in computer labs, and they would really like walk the students through that. But as our, you know, as one-to-one has really, you know, become ubiquitous and our students' navigation of technology has improved, the need for that monitoring over their shoulders has really reduced significantly. So what we do is this week right now is the online course selection window for the park. So our 8th graders got that information. I know the high school sent out information to families, and they've copied that information to our middle school counselors. So our middle school counselors know that students have this window. Depending upon the middle school, we've got a few new counselors amongst our counseling team. So what they've asked is, hey, in our building, like East, for example, has 2 counselors who are new to us in the process. So they said, you know what, we would like high school counselors to come down and support our students on site through the process as we move through it, so they can learn that back end part of it. There's a new counselor at West, and so they've gone through similar processes. I was over at Liberty yesterday, and the counselors there are tenured, right? One of the counselors was a former high school counselor, right, steeped in the process, and they've had more of a smaller scale navigation with students, where, you know, they're working the students through the process where they are controlling the process. So I'm there yesterday, and we've got kids coming in and said, hey, you know, I had trouble with this. So counselors are bringing them in and working one-on-one with those students. I know Pioneer, for example, you know, they decided as a group, because everything went online, they actually, during their homeroom time, took some time and played the video that the high school sent out beforehand. So each building is really being attentive to the needs of their students and their families in helping students navigate signing up online. So then the next piece is making sure that students really have a complete schedule. So the way we partner with the high school is the high school will run a report to make sure that kids have a complete schedule, everything that they need. And then they push that, they're going to email families today and students today and say, hey, you don't have a complete schedule. You need to go in and make sure that you go through the process. They're also sending that information out to the middle schools, so the middle schools can actually go out and engage with students. So between this week and next week, there's going to be active communication between the high school and between our middle school counselors, so that students that are really struggling, who might not seek out support, that's where we partner with the high school to make sure that we're going out, finding the students and helping them out. And you know, the other piece where we provide support to the high school is in terms of course selections. So students finishing 8th grade math, you know, is that a situation where, based upon their performance in 8th grade math, is it, you know, which math class would be the next one in their sequence? So that will be recommendations that come from our math teachers. Ultimately, the decision is between the student, the family, and their high school counselor. But we really work to provide as much information that way as possible. The other thing the middle schools do is the principals, the administrative team with the counselors, they will send information up to the high school assistant principals and counselors for students that might need extra support, right? So we're in good communication there for those students. So that's really how we kind of help facilitate the transition from our end, from 8th grade going to 9th grade. Before I talk about 5th grade, does anybody have like any questions? I did a lot of talking. All right. So
Are there any 8th grade parents who are wondering what to expect as far as scheduling to the high school? And if so, if not, he'll move on, right?
And families do have the ability they should have the ability. I'm saying this that they do, and I must say my expectation, I believe families have the ability now to go in and check their students' schedule right now, the way it is in MyStar. And some things will be, have the potential to change. For example, maybe a student signs up for a course now and then decides over the summer, you know what, I want to take that as credit advancement in summer school. So they may wind up taking the course, and then once they receive credit for that course, once they demonstrate that they have completed the course requirements, then they would go to their assistant principal and apply for credit for that course. And then actually the high school principal would look at the course offering. If it's one of our summer school courses, it's not a big deal. We accept those, obviously. But sometimes we'll have families that over the summer will have their student sign up for a Michigan Virtual University course, for example. So they'll sign up for that course, they complete the course, and then they want to have their student enrolled in the next course in the sequence at the park in 9th grade. And it's okay. It's okay if that happens, but I would strongly suggest like reaching out to the counselor in the spring or the high school AP, because ultimately it's the AP and the principal will get together and review the course if it's not one that we're familiar with, and then they decide whether we would accept that credit from whatever institution that is. So that's probably the only unique thing that I get from 8th grade families going to 9th grade in terms of an oddball question, kind of. Yes, Ms. Jackson.
I would like to make a comment. Nice to see you, Anthony.
Always good to see you.
Having experienced this just recently with my son, he was obviously an 8th grader last school year, and he's currently a 9th grader at Salem High School. I would suggest to all incoming 9th graders to look at the electives. I think that's the part where you really get to choose and decide what works and fits with your child. And at the high school levels, there's so many electives that you can choose from. And of course, you should choose what works best for your student. But I found, knowing that they're coming in with physics, English 9, world history, those are kind of dense classes. You kind of want your electives to be a little lighter because they're already getting acclimated to the high school and the social life. So I would just really say, look at the electives and what's offered. And again, they're numerous, and try to see what will fit with your child, knowing that they're going to have these kind of more dense classes. Again, when I was in high school, we didn't take physics till I think 11th grade, but now, I mean, they come in taking physics. And so just something to think about would just be my recommendation.
Any other 8th and 9th grade stuff?
Just to piggyback on your idea, I would even like whatever elective is going to make them excited to go to class, right? Like a little bit lighter, a little bit in whatever drives them to say, the type of class that they're going to come home talking about and wanting to get there. You're right with that. more dense core schedule, having them, and it was nice, Anthony, you mentioned how they're able to sign up. I know having our 9th graders just go through the scheduling process currently at the high school. On MyStar, it seems to be, I don't know if our 8th grade parents will see this, but we were able to see our student as a 9th grader and then their potential schedule as a 10th grader in 2 separate MyStar categories. And then we could even, once we click on that MyStar 10th grader for their future schedule, we could see what their counselor recommended or established for their next year, and then what our student had chosen as the electives. And it was nice how that they separated that, where you could kind of see, like, number one, that your student had actually gone in and fulfilled that and chosen their electives, and also taken a look at what they had chosen. Because sometimes they do need that guidance. You're right, Antoinette.
And having those backup options too for your electives. You may not get your first or second choice, so you definitely want to have a multiple alternatives in case you don't get it. So if you don't get team games, you could get soccer conditioning or whatever. So I really like that that's an option too in MyStar. And again, all this we just learned. I mean, this wasn't something we went into. So if we can be of any resource to those who are going from 8th to 9th grade, we definitely want to be that, because I needed it. Going to high school, I was like, what's going on? What's happening? Oh my God, it's the park. So definitely, if you guys have questions, please ask, because we're here to help.
Yeah, and we promise they're going to be okay. It doesn't seem like it, but they're going to be okay.
So thinking about 5th grade to 6th grade, the process that we use a 2-pronged approach. From the piece that people would see, one of the first things that buildings will do, and probably we do it in May, and I should say the first things we'll do in April is we'll have a 6th grade orientation, right, or a 5th grade orientation for our rising 6th graders in each one of the buildings. And we have started the planning process at the building level. And I don't know why I didn't put it in my phone. I was looking, but it's usually the last Thursday in April. I believe that's the 28th, but I didn't put it in my phone. So I'm not I'm not confirming or denying that that's the date, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it is.
It is at Liberty. It's April 28th from 5 to 8.
And it'll be the same at all 5 middle schools. So that'll be our rising 6th grade orientation. It will be in person. Our plan is to spread things out a little bit, so we don't have 200 kids and 200 to 400 adults in the same location at the same time. So different buildings will do it different ways in terms of one building might have everybody at the same time, but put the kids in one location, adults in another location. Some buildings are going to split it up by the alphabet because they like to have their students and their families together. So it really just depends upon the building how they do that, but it will, I appreciate the confirmation, Ms. Jackson, because all buildings will do it on the 28th. The other piece that will happen will be the middle school counselors will do building visits in the spring, where they will go down to the 5th grade classrooms of their sending schools and talk to the students on a more intimate basis. So on the 28th, we'll get a big high level view. And then after that, in the spring, the counselors will call down to the elementary principals and set up a time that it works mutually for them. And that's really just a time we want our students to meet their counselors, because pretty much in the elementary experience, right, we don't have counselors in all of our elementary schools. So it's a new role for students. So we really want them to be like almost the first contact, really. Like they'll meet their principals and they'll meet some staff members on the 28th. But that first more intimate contact, we want that to be with their counselors, because we want to really develop that relationship. And then the third big in-person piece will be Web Day, which will be the Thursday, 2 weeks before the start of school. And that'll be a half-day in-person experience for 6th grade students, team building at each one of the middle schools. And we have web advisors in each one of our middle schools, and they will recruit and train a team of probably close to 20 rising 8th graders who will be web leaders. And those are our peer mentors. And they'll do team building games and get to know the building day games on that web day. But the most powerful thing from my perspective is that at each one of the buildings, those web leaders will have events or activities that they will do with their mentor groups throughout the school year. And each building kind of does it different, but they've all received the same training based upon the principles of web, which the company behind that, the organization behind that is the Boomerang Project. And the web portion is what's called Where Everybody Belongs. I forgot to mention it earlier, but the high school has an analogous program. Their 8th to 9th grade program is called Link Crew, and they will do the same thing actually on the same day, that Thursday in August, for our rising 9th graders. So I forgot to mention that earlier. So those are the big 3 student interactive events that we'll have. The behind the scenes piece is we have a questionnaire that we send out to all of our 5th grade teachers to give us feedback on the students that they're sending up. Academic strengths, academic challenges, any interventions that the students have engaged in, right? Just giving us some feedback. And then I take all of that, like it's really a Google form, the data comes to me. I take all of that and I merge that with student test scores, NWA, BAS, and I send that to all of the middle schools so that the middle school administrative team and the counseling team has all of that information as they're building student schedules. And then on top of that, our building administrators meet with the elementary administrators to talk about the students, right? Tell us about the kids that you're sending us. What are their strengths? What are their interests? Where are places where we need to amplify things where, students have exhibited these strengths, and how can we amplify those? And then also kids that have challenges in different areas, right? Like how can we support these students as they make the transition? And then for students with IEPs, and again, this is both 8th grade going to 9th grade and 5th grade going to 6th grade, our special education resource room teachers and case managers, they will meet with the families, and they'll develop that transition IEP going from 5th grade to 6th grade or from 8th grade to 9th grade. So, transitions are always a scary thing and a challenging thing. But, we have some pretty solid processes in place to make sure that students are supported in that transition. So any elementary to middle school questions?
Quick question, for those web days and stuff, I know you said it's usually the Thursday 2 weeks before school starts. So that I'm guessing that'll either be August 18th or the 25th, looking at the calendar. When do they actually send those dates out, just for parents planning purposes? And
It will be soon.
Okay,
I want to say, yeah. Actually, I believe it'll be the 25th because the first day of school is the 6th,
yeah, that's
right?
what I was looking
Is
at.
September 6th. So teacher PD will be the week before that. And we have web day the week before. It's always web and link will be it's always the Thursday before teacher PD. So
Okay,
you could very confidently put that in your calendar for the 25th.
okay, thank you. Oh, and one other question I've heard talked about, and I haven't had any official thing for middle school. How do the electives work? Like I've heard they only pick a certain thing and then they're with that thing all year. And then, so if you could clarify that or go through that a little bit, that would be helpful.
That's a great question. I totally missed that. So in probably May, we will send families basically a elective request form for 5th graders going to 6th grade. And pretty much the only thing we're asking is, do you want your student to participate in orchestra, choir, or band, or band? Now, orchestra takes place in the morning before middle school starts. So that actually happens at the park. So we affectionately call that 0 hour. So 6th graders ride their neighborhood high school bus in the morning. Orchestra is held in phase 3 at Canton High School, which is where the gym is, in the orchestra room. And all students from across the middle schools will be in a middle school only orchestra class. And then we'll be shuttled, after class ends, we'll be shuttled back to their middle schools. The other 2 elective classes that students can choose are choir and band. We do have some students that choose choir and band, and those will be the only 2 year-long electives that they have. Other than that, the electives that are offered are electives that students really don't have a choice in. We try and get all of our 6th graders health. We also try and get all of our 6th graders PE. And those are both semester-long classes. And then after that, the other 6th grade electives, it kind of depends upon staffing and student numbers in terms of what's offered in a particular year. But our standard 6th grade offerings are a semester long. The only difference that we try to keep it this way is our 6th grade STEM offering. We try to keep that a marking quarter, and we partner it up with project-based learning. So students would have STEM one quarter, project-based learning the other quarter. And we make STEM a quarter-long class because we had made the commitment to, after having some good conversations with families and finding out about interest, that families really wanted their students to experience that. So with the investment in this STEM rooms that the district made and the feedback from our families, we try to get as many 6th grade students as possible an introductory to STEM experience also. I hope that helped.
It did. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other wonderings? Well, if anybody
can
ever
I?
has any, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay. For the web program at East, do they match up the Gallimore tag students to tag students in East, or how is the process of the Gallimore kids going to East different from the rest of the students?
It really is not different until you actually get to scheduling the core classes. So one of the things that we have really tried to do, and I shouldn't say tried to do, where we work hard to do at East is build an entire school community. We don't want two schools within one school. So their advisory classes are mixed advisory classes. And they've even mixed them by grade level before too. So you'd have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders in the same advisory class. But this year, as we start to implement the positivity project as a component of advisory class, as a tier 1 social emotional learning advisory resource, we went back to having grade level advisories. But for advisories and for electives, those are mixed classes between students who are coming from Gallimore in the TAG program and those who aren't. So while we'll have honors, like distinct honors classes, and students who come from Gallimore are enrolled in those distinct honors classes, there's for electives and for advisory, those classes are mixed. And when it comes to the honors classes, there are times where we have students who are extremely high performers in certain academic areas. And if there's room in those honors classes, we do have times where we do enroll students in those honors classes. It's rare, but we are always doing our best to be student-centered to meet the needs of the kids in front of us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other last questions? I know it's huge topic areas as far as thinking about your 8th grade students transitioning to the high school and also your 5th grade students transitioning to middle school. I remember the times where I had just put it out of my mind and basically pretended that my kids would be in elementary school forever. And that was how I dealt with things. And then you get to the point where your 5th grade student transitions to 6th grade and you're like, they did this. Everything's okay. I promise you, every parent here who can't imagine their 5th grade student or their even earlier elementary student, they will open their locker and they will get from class to class, even though it might not seem possible right now. And like Anthony said, there's so many processes that the district has put together that helps that transition. And so many people, including your students' counselor, as well as their teachers, who are kind of prepping them for that transition and giving them details, as well as parents going to meetings like these and the meetings that you will have with their counselor and the tour of the middle school that'll make it seem much more real and much more doable. So for the next couple months, we'll try to integrate those topics and give parents the information that I know you are longing to have right now. So Anthony, thank you very much did you have one more thing you wanted to say?
You know what I was going to say? Can I have an ask of you and your team? And this is not for right now, because I really want people to think about it. But, and I'll say from the middle school perspective, but also from the high school perspective, whatever you share, I'll bring it back to Mr. Hurd. We work really closely together. But thinking about from a parent need, maybe outside of that 5th grade orientation, are there things that you guys are hearing parents need, like before that? So for example, one of the conversations I remember having with families a lot was, hey, middle school's scary, middle school's tough. But one of the things that's really important as we're helping kids really develop and find their voice, and we help kids learn how to deal with adversity so that they build up this resilience that we know is in kids because they're dealing with what we're all dealing with right now. How can, one of the wonders that I have is there a way, or is there a way that parents would be open to, want, or need that they can have some of those conversations beforehand, right? So that, they're going into 6th grade knowing that, I want my kid to have times of adversity. Like, I want my student to actually fail, right? Sometimes we get kids that going through elementary school, right? The way that they're managing it, they never get a B on anything, right? And then, come sometime in September, they get their math test back and there's a B on it, and you would think it was the end of the world, right? And you have to say to a 6th grader, listen, I'm telling you, Harvard doesn't care what you got on your first math test in 6th grade. They really don't. So, so just thinking about what parents might need to help, especially first-time middle school parents, right? What they might need in terms of helping them with the transition, just not their students, right? Helping the adults with the transition. So if you guys would do a little bit of reconnaissance, and then you could just get back to me, Judy, and I want to think about how we can do that more proactively next year.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea, because I think sometimes the student might do better with the reaction of the B test sometimes than the parent necessarily does. I think we're in times right now where parents have been told everything has to be, grades, extracurriculars, everything has to be perfect. I think just before our quarantine hit and I was a parent at East Middle School, we were having a very valuable conversation with Scott Burrick, who was the principal at that time, was having a conversation with our PTO organization. And he had one of our partnering groups from Reset Yoga and Therapy Center come in, and we were talking about parents and our views of being able to allow your kid to fail. You know what I mean? One of those, because middle school and high school and those transitions, it's a lot of times that's where it will happen, and where we have to say, I'm glad they're having this experience right here. You know what I mean? Where they've got support.
Because when they have that experience at whatever college or university, it's going to cost us some money. So, and I
be
would
more
say,
difficult
right,
to handle, right?
Yeah, middle school is a great place for kids to make bigger mistakes. We don't like to deal with them, but they're still children. And the way society is right now, they're children that are exposed to way more adult stuff than any of us were ever exposed to as kids. So the challenges are actually greater, and they need the tools to be able to navigate that, and the tools, and be able to use the tools practically in context. And unless those situations occur, they'll never be able to utilize those tools in context, which in my opinion puts them in a less advantageous position as they try to move through independence, which obviously is where we want them all to be, whatever that looks like for whichever student it is. So
absolutely, I think that's a really good. I'm wondering if some, whether it's through some of our parent council meetings where we focus on that, or whether we give parents that space to have the conversations about kind of what to expect in middle school, or what we really do want to happen with our kids in middle school is maybe, would maybe make for a healthier middle school and high school experience if we were fostering those conversations. I think that'd be great.
Almost like a series through the year.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I hate the Zoom piece. I would much rather do it in person, but the way we're functioning, right, and also busy. If we can get greater engagement in this way, you know, a short presentation with some Q&A, you know, would be, I'd be all for it.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I think that's something we should touch base about, because I know we were having middle school parent coffees. Was it coffees? I can't remember, before our coronavirus, right before we were kind of limiting the people inside. So maybe, fingers crossed, as things are starting to progress more normally, maybe that's something we can address and try to integrate the ideas that you were just talking about.
Sounds good. All right.
Thank you
Find
so
the
much,
topic,
Anthony.
let me know.
We'll get some parent feedback on that. Every time you come, I'm so grateful and happy that you have been here. So thank you very much. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time, and thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure. Everybody have a great day.
You too, Anthony.
Bye.
Pardon me. Thank you. All right. Well, with the idea of middle school and high school transitions in mind, one of the components that a lot of our parents were asking about and also hearing about, which I was grateful of, a lot of our principals have been communicating about the process that a lot of our students are going to be going through as far as placing them in appropriate math levels for the coming years. And we have our coordinator of math and art and visual arts here today. She's our coordinator of the math curriculum, and I appreciate you having here. And she's going to talk about math enhancement and placement. Thank you for being here, Kathy. Oh, you're on mute. There you go.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. So yes, I am the curriculum coordinator for K-12 mathematics and visual and performing arts. And today our focus is on math, but if you have any questions about either of those subject areas, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to share my screen, but I am a visual person and I like to give visuals as I'm speaking. I'm not sure if the host is going to be able to allow that.
Hey, Kathy, I just gave you co-host ability if you want to share screen. If not, I can run the presentation for you. Just let me know.
Okay, looks like I can share. All right, can everyone see the screen okay? All right. So what does a curriculum coordinator do? So as curriculum coordinator, I review all the changes in curriculum, both statewide and nationally. And then I work to help our teachers learn about those changes, but more importantly, work with teachers on best practices for making sure all students are successful in the classroom. And so when we think about mathematics, a lot of people think, well, math doesn't really change, but I invite you to consider all the changes that have happened. So when you look at the pictures at the bottom of the screen here, you see a cell phone from the 1980s. And yes, it was called a cell phone because you literally had to carry a cell battery around with you. And now you look at our smartphone, that's basically, it's a miniature computer, right? That we carry around. It's a camera. It's pretty much everything we want it to be and then some. And so when you think about mathematics, we want to grow mathematicians that are not only good at math, but they are creative in the ways that they apply math to different problems. Another example would be back when I was in high school, it was a major ordeal if there was going to be a launch. And the whole world stopped and the whole world watched. And now we have people traveling in space for fun, right? If you've got the money, you can go up. And so our applications of mathematics have changed dramatically, and we want to create mathematicians who are ready for the jobs that we don't even know are going to exist. So that's what changing curriculum and teaching practice is all about. So then back in the day, we were focused on proficiency in math being based on accuracy, fact fluency, formulas, and yes, it's still all of those things, but now we are expanding to more creative applications and problem solving. And one of the ways we do that is making sure that students are learning all the standards of math practice. And so whereas number 6, you see attention to precision is just 1/8 of all the ways we want students to learn math. So there's differentiated math opportunities at all the levels. In elementary, we call it math workshop, and teachers are differentiated within instruction within the classroom. And moving into middle school, there's differentiation in all classrooms, but there's also differentiation in class placement. So we have our standard class placement progression, which would be math in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. And we also have a math support class as an elective. And so if a teacher was feeling that a student would benefit from a math support class, they would work that out in the schedule as one of the electives would be that. And we also offer advanced math classes beginning in the middle school. I'll talk a little bit more about that. So how does that happen? We screen all 5th grade students with their NWEA winter score and sometimes the spring score as well. And for those students who are scoring their NWEA score of 231 or higher, we give them another screener. For students scoring between 231 and 249, they take an assessment we call the 5th grade MAS, which is another way we measure their performance in all the academic standards for 5th grade. Or we have them, for those who score 250 or higher, we have them take the 6th grade MAS. From there, we take both those scores to determine if it's appropriate to provide an math advancement placement. So some students would be placed in accelerated math 6-7, and very few, but some students are placed in accelerated math 7-8. Now, what those classes mean is kind of what you probably are thinking they mean. So accelerated math 6-7 accelerates through all of 6th grade and half of the 7th grade math in that 6th grade year. And then the following year, they would take the other half of 7th grade math and accelerate it through 8th grade math. So this math advancement placement has them doing essentially 3 years worth of learning standards in 2 years. And if they continue to be successful in 8th grade, they would move into advanced algebra, which is a high school class. They don't actually get high school credit per se because they are still needing to take all of their high school credits for graduation once they're in the high school. So if your student is already at middle school and they're a 7th grader, we screen all our 7th grade students as well. We're using that winter NWEA score again. Sometimes students move into the district. We might be using some spring scores for some students. So we take that score, and all students also take 2 other assessments that are coming up in March. The high school diagnostic, and an Iowa assessment. Many parents are asked, what are the cut scores for all of those assessments? Well, we know that one assessment does not define a student's performance. So we do use 3, and we understand that while a student might not do as well on one of these assessments, they might do better on another assessment. And so we've created a rubric to score those assessments. So for each of these 3 tests, we will assign 1 to 3 points depending on their performance. And then we take those points in our rubric to determine a final review and placement. So if they qualify as an 8th grader, they would move into advanced algebra rather than the 8th grade math. And so then just looking forward as 9th grade, if they were successful in that advanced algebra class, they would move straight into the honors geometry class. So some parents ask, well, my child's in 8th grade and they've been on the standard progression. However, they're very successful in math, and can they get involved in advanced math in high school? And the answer is yes. Really, the 8th grade teacher and counselor would make a recommendation, and those students grow at all different rates, and they might find that they have an 8th grader who's really outperforming. Teacher has given differentiated opportunities, and they're ready for more math as they move into high school. And that's really up to the teacher and the counselor to determine that. Some parents ask, well, how do we prepare our students for all of these assessments? And really the answer is making sure they have a good night's sleep. Take that phone away, turn it off. There's no notifications going on all night long. Making sure that they wake up early enough to have breakfast, and they're ready to have a good day. Another way is to simply not push, but open the opportunity for your student to do some self-reflection and think, what are my strengths in math? Where am I really confident? And where am I not so confident? Those are my opportunities. And so if they're self-driven, they might take those opportunities, and there's so many resources out there if they want to brush up on those things that make them feel a little bit queasy inside. Math IXL is available, Khan Academy. Both those have some great videos for instruction and some great practice. What I don't recommend is drill and kill, because that creates a lot of anxiety for students. And remember, we want to present this to students as, hey, you love math, you're going to be great in math. And if these tests don't capture that, your love for math this time, that's okay. And you can still go on and love math and be successful in math. We don't want them to think these screenings determine their final life math mission, because they really don't. It's just how we create opportunities for students along the way. So after all the testing that happens, families receive notices in May. 7th grade families, probably the middle of the May, they'll receive notice. 5th grade families would probably receive it more towards beginning of June. And then we ask parents to confirm or accept that placement. Usually there's a link in the email to do that. So for now, they're working on, you might be working on those middle school schedules, as you were just talking with Anthony Ruella. So you would just, obviously, you're not choosing what math class they're going into. You're choosing those electives that your child is interested in. So with math placement, that happens automatically through this testing and parent notification. So if you're notified of a different math placement, accept that placement and certainly talk about it with your student. It does mean possibly more homework time. And that might be important, you know, if you're also traveling on a hockey team or baseball team or what have you, you know, that it's a discussion because we want well-balanced lives for our students. And there may be a little bit more homework there. All right, so if people are just moving into the district, I don't know if we have any parents here who are plan on purchasing a home in the district and will be moving into the district. If your child is not here for the screening when it happens, we do offer some screening in August for those new students. And teachers also review in September. They take a look at who's in their class and they do some progress monitoring early on and sometimes make adjustments. So that's what happens for new families. And so now I'm wondering if you have any questions or wonderings about what you've heard.
I have two questions actually. The first, so I saw that they take a test in 7th grade again. So say if a student in 5th grade placed into the math 6-7 for 6th grade, so they're in the more like the advanced track, whatever you want to call it. Do they take the test, those diagnostic tests again, or like the screenings again in 7th grade, or are they just?
Do.
Okay.
Yes, that's a great question. So again, we want to make sure that we're putting students on a successful path that works for them. And so even if they're already in the accelerated program, they do take those assessments.
So there's a chance, let's say a student's in the advanced track in 6th grade and then in 7th grade, and then they take the test and they don't do well, there's a chance they could get back to the standard progression in 8th grade.
It's highly unusual.
Likely, but that's okay, but they do take the test and that could happen. So, or if a kid's in standard progression then up through 7th grade, then there's a chance they could get bumped up in 8th grade.
Correct.
Okay, and my second question is for the kids at Gallimore, like the 5th graders there. I don't have a 5th grader there yet, but I know they are doing 6th grade math in 5th grade. So do those kids still, are they automatically put in 7th grade math in 6th grade, or do they take the tests too to figure out what maybe they aren't quite ready for 7th grade, or how does that work for them?
Great question. So yes, all 5th graders in the Talented and Gifted program are receiving 6th grade math as their instruction. And so when they do take the assessments, we do look at their NWEA score, and they do take the MAS assessments. And in some cases, if we are concerned about the performance on those assessments or in the classroom on their curriculum, we might even give them yet another assessment. Again, wanting to make sure that we put them on a successful track. So typically, those 5th graders score well and are placed, a lot of them are placed directly into the math 7-8.
Okay.
But some of them are placed in math 6-7. And if there's unusual circumstances, they might, the best place for them might not be in accelerated math. But again, we look at each student as an individual and have their best success in mind.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Any other questions for Kathy? I know.
Yes, I have one. So on the 6th grade, on the 5th grade from the tag school, kids take the NWEA, but they learn 6th grade math, and also they attempt 6th onwards NWEA. So when that is compared to a district-wide, how does that compare to other kids who are taking like the fifth and below grade NWA? So how do you compare those two?
Well, that's a great question. And for that rubric, so to speak, we are not comparing them with the non-tag fifth graders because they are taking a different assessment. Like you said, their NWEA assessment is not the fifth grade one. It is the 6+ NWEA. And they would not be taking the fifth grade MAS. They take the sixth grade MAS. And so it's a parallel process rather than the same process. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and then so the percentile is calculated among everybody who's taking NWA on the fifth grade, or just the tag students among themselves for the percentile?
Just the tag students.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Kathy? Okay, Kathy, I want to thank you very much for coming here and explaining the process to us. I know that math and where our students place in math, I know has been a very, I've talked to parents, it's a very focused and interested topic that parents have. So I greatly appreciate the time that you took and the explanation. It's even more clear to me, having already had students already gone through these levels. So I even learned something new, like, oh, they did go through that. So I appreciate it very much. And we hope to talk to you in the future soon. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
All right. So after having discussed our math placement and testing process, we are going to turn to a very trusted and valued source of information. Oh, I see that they're both on. Both Mark Salzer as well as Andrew Steinman are here, and they have visited our parent council meetings many times before because they are our most trusted source when it comes to technology. And I think I can speak for all parents that technology, both academic and non, is one of the biggest topics at the forefront of our parents' mind as well as our students' minds. So we appreciate them being here as a source of information. We are going to be talking about both the option, the possibility that parents have to enroll in the Securely program, which I think is very beneficial, especially for elementary, middle school students who might be getting a device and haven't had that technology component, consistent before, because I think it's incredibly important for us as parents to understand what our students have access to and maybe what we don't want them to have access to, and how we want to, I guess, kind of reconcile those two situations as they use technology in their daily lives. So, as well as the ACP program that will be available to families who apply and are eligible for that. So Mark, thank you so much for being here, and I will let you take the technology topic over.
Well, thanks, Judy. And it's nice. Andrew and I appreciate the invitation. You're all always very hospitable, and we really appreciate your serving as a conduit for information to the rest of our community, our families. First, we're really excited. We've had Securely in use in the district for several years, but we expanded our contract with them, and in so doing, we were able to, as part of that additional purchase, we were able to access Securely Home, and that was one of the value adds that we saw in enlarging our relationship with them, because we've been hearing from our families they would like to have more control. So this is an app, and if I could, Judy, if you can I have you navigate to a website for me? Is that possible? Whoops. I don't hear you, but
sorry about that. I will have, Carly would be able, so Carly,
Oh.
are you?
Mark, let me know, yeah, what you need.
Yeah.
would you
Carly
go?
will
Yeah,
navigate you.
let's go to the district website for a moment. I just want to, because I'm going to reference things and I'd like you all to be able to get to it later. So let's get to it. So at the district website, if you were to go to departments, and then if you went to the technology department, over by teaching and learning, and further down, there she goes. So here's the technology department, and we have a resource that hopefully many have found, and if not, I certainly would rather, I want you all to know this one as well. It's the Digital Learning Hub. So if you'll go down, and there's links to it. So if we can click on one of those. And some of this information is also on our website in the department area, but this is one that we've curated specific to support our families with learning in many ways. So regarding securely, you'll see at the top of the banner of this page, Securely Home. And if you clicked on it, it would then take you to another subpage that talks about ways to safeguard your students' privacy and also to help with their safety online. And we lead with that there's this new offering available for our families that have take-home devices, iPads and Chromebooks. There's a short video I won't indulge you now to watch, but it is, thank you, Andrew's making a comment as well. If you go to that website, there you can go directly there. But anyway, there's a video that gives a very broad stroke overview of the service. And then below, we kind of go through some of the pieces within the service. You can stop right there, Carly. Maybe go up just a shade more. So families that enroll, and presently we are tracking only the aggregate numbers. So we have between a quarter and half of our families. And why we don't know for sure is because we don't know to what extent there might be duplicate parent guardians with the same set of kids, and or one parent guardian of more than one that we might have sent to that has activated an account. But we have at least a quarter of our families, and possibly double that are able to view on a daily basis a live or nearly live feed of what their students' activities are online. They can set up a report to be mailed to them weekly that says, here's where I went, these are the videos I looked at, these are the search terms I used, etc. And it even allows them to pause use of their devices when they're at home or off-site. So there's a number of nice features within this application. It's available for mobile. It's available for web. So, parents can activate an account and use different devices to do the control setting, and then they can have something enter their inbox to understand better maybe what their students are doing both at home, and also we have it set up so that they see what they're doing at school. So that's piece one. To the, in terms of limitations, we don't natively enable the families to do any restrictions apart from what we have at the school itself. They can further restrict their students' behavior vis-a-vis online activity when they're off-site. So just know that. But we've had a few families, and that's why if I were to, actually, before I go to that, I'll just say that the help information for Securely is quite robust. So we have the link there, and it was also sent in a mailing we've done out to our families to alert them to the offering. And there's a frequently asked question area. There's a service system. Everybody that and there's only been a handful of folks that have had issues, and all I've heard is very positive feedback about the service writ large. But everybody that's had an issue has been able, with, I think, relative ease, to resolve the supports that they need. Like I only see one of my kids. I don't see my other kid on my account, or any of a number of things. So there's an active support that's available for them to go to get some guidance and help with their use of the application. So know that. But we've also we've had a small number of people that have said, "Hey, I noticed my kid is on this site or that site at school, and I'd like them not to be on this site or that site." So Securely doesn't have that ability to make that adjustment, but we do. If you go down further, Carly, just a little bit, we remain with an extension. We actually have several of them that allow families to go and do additional filtering if they want. They don't get the reports, but they do have the ability to say, I don't want to have this access or that access available to the student. And you could read about that. I won't, spend time on it right now, but just know that we're trying to give our families, you all, control and insights into the student's behavior in an effort to, best manage them as your children best. And so I just offer that we've tried to provide this information. We've had families that have gone so far as to say the kids are getting up at a particular hour when I'm already asleep. And so we've helped families understand that you can adjust your router at home to kind of preclude usage at certain hours, even if you don't have a take-home device, because with Securely, our take-home devices, you can actually pause internet, using, but people have other devices. So we're trying, and we would like to continue to have a strong partnership with our families to help them secure their students' well-being online. And I'll pause here for a moment. I'll turn it over to my colleague to maybe fill in some gaps I might have missed, and then we can field questions if there are any. So I'll talk first. Andrew, what do you have to help clarify?
I don't think you missed anything, but I just want to reiterate that this Securely feature of parents being able to restrict their students' internet activity is limited to students who have a district take-home device, and that it is only while parents can see everything that their students are doing, they only have control over what happens when the student is off-site of our one of our, basically outside of our building. So once a student is on our internet, our filtering policies take over. And as Mark shared, we do offer these extensions that parents can use if they want to restrict that access within the district. I would actually add that I would be interested if parents are doing that. I wouldn't mind them sharing with us the sites that they're blocking, because while we do our best to keep up to date and make sure we're blocking everything that we should be blocking, it's good to hear the community feedback to see if there's maybe things that we should be adding to our block list. And along those lines, because I know Mark has mentioned this to me several times too, and to others, is that there's always a new Google site that pops up with games, and it's whack-a-mole to try to get them all. So we may not be successful in blocking all those types of sites, but there are other types of sites that are popping up that we just may not be aware of, and it's just helpful for us to at least hear what families are doing, because those extensions we don't have any control over, like Blocksy, so we're not able to see what the families necessarily are blocking through that.
And thank you for that point, Carly. If you can go back up a little bit, please. So just right there, whoops, where it says, please contact your school's technology support team. So that's a link, and if you were to follow that, you would see, actually, Carly, if you wouldn't mind just maybe clicking that, contact your school's technology support team if further assistance is still needed. You see that link? Bingo. So this is where, like, if you encounter a site that you think, gosh, especially also if you see your child's on on this site at school and you think, wow, this is way inappropriate. You know, what's going on here? You would email to one of these, depending on where your student is, and say, hey, my kid's at this site, and it doesn't seem like it makes sense for it to be unblocked. You know, we pay for a service that dynamically is reviewing literally billions of websites, web pages, and blocking and categorizing. But, you know, things always, you know, slip through, right? It's not perfect, it's imperfect. So if you see it both at home and you feel like, gosh, that really should be blocked and it isn't, we'd like to know about it. And if you see it at school, because again, it's a partnership, we won't necessarily always be able to make the adjustments. There are, you know, workarounds, but we try. You know, we turn off the VPN access. We are limiting Google site access, but unfortunately, you know, where there's a will, there's a way, and we're trying to help our students make good decisions, but it's a partnership. So please also encourage your students, or if you know of other families, you know, to have those heart-to-heart conversations. And yep, I'll leave it at that.
Well, I'll just sorry to interrupt. I always just wanted to add, and just a reminder that these email addresses aren't just to let us know about the blocking of sites. That these are our community technology support emails. So basically, you or your student could email us directly using these email addresses, and it's actually what we don't necessarily tell everyone is that these don't go to just someone's inbox. This goes into a ticketing system for us that helps us better respond to communications that we receive from students and families. And it goes to the specific support person for that building, and they're able to then communicate directly with who contacted them and possibly escalate the ticket if need be. So this is the best way if there is a technology related issue for a student or a parent to contact us.
And are there questions or wonders that folks have we can respond to?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Katie.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Sorry. I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you to Mark and to Andrew and to your entire team, because this is like such a big task and such a big job to keep the computers and the internet safe for all of our children. And I think you guys are just doing a really wonderful job. I mean, I had an incident with my son at Gallimore a few weeks ago that he had got to some content that wasn't necessarily appropriate, and the teacher acted on it right away. And I think your team acted on it right away. And I just want to say, again, I think you guys are doing a wonderful job. So thank you so much.
Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, I was going to extend that in case you are feeling as a parent that it's no big deal, but you're not quite comfortable with what your child is pulling up, you know, whether it's the Chromebook or whether an issue of, you know, I know we have installed routers that have given us a much better control of not only content, but different times, because, you know, none of us want to realize that our children are on their devices, you know, in the middle of the night or anything else like that. But giving those types of control to parents, and Mark, you've been a great resource. I think you were like my husband's best friend for a while as he was setting up, you know, trying to do that. So I think as Andrew pointed out too, if your family is experiencing these problems or this issue with certain content and you're thinking, this just doesn't seem right, you know, reaching out to other families and also reaching out to you guys, it is very calming to say, okay, other families have dealt with this and these guys are here to help us out. Very reassuring.
Thanks.
Oh, hi again. Hi, Mark. So I had already emailed you guys, I guess maybe a week or two ago, about how much we love this, the Securely app. And I posted in our school Facebook group for Gallimore, and I hadn't realized that it was only for people who have take-home devices. Is there any way to give access to parents to see what their kids are doing at school, even if they don't have a take-home device?
it's a little convoluted. So it's not trivial to do. So if there's, so principals have an ability to request a report to be able to, on a case-by-case basis. So if there's a particular problem, there is a way. It's much more difficult on an iPad, nearly impossible on the Chromebooks. It's possible if they're using them at school. So if it's a cart-based Chromebook at an elementary, for example, the principal just needs to, they work with us and we pull the reports. So it's definitely possible, and we definitely do it probably every couple weeks for instances. It's not easily done, but we're certainly willing to do it if it's needed.
Okay, why can't they just get the app like I have? Like, why is it not just open?
Because of the licensing and the how
okay.
it actually, an extension's pushed out and we license the extension based on the offsite. So they look at our domain and anyway, so it's a licensing issue.
Okay, that's all. Okay, thank you. I can share that back. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I will add, so yes, licensing issue, therefore, there's that. And then also the installation. So we're able to manage what's installed on our district Chromebooks. And if it's a personal device, then we're not necessarily able to do that. But my understanding is that securely, and there are others, I think Bark offers this, and Mark, you may know of other companies that are out there that offer this directly to families, that you could get your own personal license. And I think it's been brought up a couple times. There's even basically equipment like routers and other special equipment you could get at home that can monitor the traffic that's happening both at home, and if you get really creative, you can get it to monitor things that happen outside the home as well.
So actually, if I can, Carly, can you go back to the Securely page for a second? So there is actually, thank you, Andrew, for reminding me or jogging my memory. Carly, if you'll go back there, please. Whoops, not that one. And Digital Learning Hub, and then Securely. And then if you scroll down, and I have to, a little bit down, just a little further. Yep, keep going. Not that, okay, right, stop there. It's where it says families may also wish to enable additional logging when signing. So that paragraph right there, if you log in to your student's account from a different computer or theirs, but I would say, and then you click on and say, I want to track, and you can choose what you want to track, then you can remotely log into their account and see their YouTube viewings, their searches. It's not as complete, but this is certainly something that's available for you right now, even if you don't have a take-home device, if you want to see some of their online activity, for sure. So that's through Google and their account. You can turn on My Activity and do syncing across devices and view that. That might be of some help for some families.
Oh, that might be. Maybe I'll share that. I just want to say, I think this was like an amazing move. Like, I love seeing it, and I love calling it like, oh, like, what was this like YouTube video? Like, what are we like discussing? I don't know. I mean, there's nothing like bad, but it's just really nice to see like what they're looking at. And I also like just to pop on, like, I just checked mine. It's like, oh, like, look, they just finished a Savas like test. Like, look at that. Like, I just think it's amazing. So like, amazing work. Everyone involved in getting it, like, brilliant. It's just, I know, very great job. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you. And I'll just reiterate with what Mark just shared around the Google activity. It's only going to work and track if the student is logged in to their Google account. So if they're logged into a different Google account or using, let's say, a browser that they're not logged in at all, that this won't be able to track that activity.
And if there are other questions on Securely, happy to field them, but I also wanted to share with you about another program. So maybe we'll segue to that. And then if you all have questions down the road, happy to field them. But if we go to, actually, Carly, can you just go back to the home button on, like this, that one right there, or any of them. I think, that if you click that. So this is also on the district website, but I want to just bring it to your attention because we would really like to support families' access. So if you go down on this page, Carly, just a little bit, and just right there where it says free and low cost home internet, if you were to click on that, we're always trying to alert families to opportunities. The federal government set aside billions of dollars. I can't remember if it's 4 billion, 7 billion, a lot of money to basically subsidize families' internet service. And they did this at the beginning, or towards the beginning of the COVID period. It's changed a little bit. The money is no longer as much. It's now $30 rather than $50. But there's still for eligible families, and they've also adjusted the eligibility. It's maybe not as open as it had been before, but for any family that would meet these criteria, and you just have to meet one of them, they can get a $30 a month subsidy against an internet service. And we have links on this page, and if you go further down, particular details on what's available in our area for lower cost internet service. And so you can, in some cases, effectively get no cost for your internet service, depending on the service you're getting. And it's a way for us to help our families have access to the internet. So just letting you know that it's there. We are aware that some families are taking part of it, but we don't know to what extent all the families that might be eligible. So we just wanted to let people know it's a federal subsidy, and our families are as deserving as any other family to be able to partake. And we would just like people to know if they do qualify, they could certainly consider applying. There is one other service that's available. We also note for phone service, which provides a $9.25 monthly. That's the Lifeline right there. So there's different offerings that people may or may not be aware of. And we're just wanting to make sure that our families are aware that there are supports in place. We know there's challenges, and we'd like to support them. And then on top of that, for those that are without internet service and are having struggles, we still do have a hotspot service available, and we do have some families participating in that issuance. We try to help them get internet service, but we also are aware there sometimes are challenges, so we're trying to make hotspots available in those instances. So it's just letting you know that. Don't know if anybody has any other questions. Happy to field them.
Great. I thank you so very much, Mark and Andrew. We love having you here. You are always we always love having you. You are a repetitive and also very welcome, valued messenger and guest that we have here. So thank you guys for sharing your time with us today, and very critical information. I think there will be a lot of parents who are taking a look at Securely, who are really wanting that, not just the control, but that reassurance by, with our youngest and even our oldest students who are using so much technology. So thank you so much. Thank you for being a resource, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
You're quite welcome. Thanks very much for having us. We really appreciate the opportunity. Wish everybody well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Wow, we are going to feel like this meeting just flew by today. And Monica, we're so happy to see you and happy to have Nick back. I know that as far as our agenda goes, this was I feel like our first parent council agenda that seemed almost completely normal as far as our focus is concerned for the last couple years. So I'm happy with that, but I know we are still in this interesting and ever evolving time, but we are so happy to have you here and happy to talk about some district items that you might find to be valuable and great to share with our families today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. You know, I'm never shy to say that this is my absolute most favorite group to meet with. And so I really was looking forward to just coming today and giving some really great updates. And then my world was rocked a little bit at 7:14 this morning, where I received a notification that Wayne County Health Department was lifting their mask mandate effective 8 o'clock. And how that will then impact our school that's already in session. So just kind of wanted to share right now a little bit of urgency and getting some communications and plans out for our school community. So I'm going to be very brief today, and that'll be the only thing that I really focus on, and then rely on Mr. Brandon to help fill in the blank. And I'm going to exit the call pretty soon because I think that, again, we have some urgency around communication. So just kind of share high level, really, really good news that we here in our school district are really mirroring the trends that we're seeing in our county in terms of this being a post-surge type of environment with COVID-19. When we look at our local cases this week, we have been in single digits. I think we had 8 cases district-wide on Monday, 7 on Tuesday, 7 on Wednesday. What is today? Is today Thursday? Thursday. So all of this week, single digits. Earlier this week, the Wayne County Health Department, well, actually last week, issued a media advisory saying that they were anticipating a rescinding of their mask order based on the data effective February 28th. They hadn't officially said it was going to happen, but everything was pointing to that. They were giving us some rationale behind. We all look to this CDC level of transmission, and we are currently in a high level of transmission, but as they're following the data, there's so many other factors that are at play. And they explained to us, really, when you look at the level of transmission, that is normalized over 100,000 people, that's the number of new cases. And they said it really could just be a lag. We could literally be in this high level for a long time. However, when you look at our percent positivity, the news is really good and improving every single day. As of yesterday, I think our percentage was 4.96% positivity, which puts us in the low range of transmission in Wayne County. So looking at that factor, looking at hospitalization, looking at deaths, looking at ICU beds, all of these things played into them saying we're moving away from this mask mandate and moving towards a place of endemic versus pandemic, meaning that COVID-19 is going to be around for a while, like the flu, and we all need to take a collective responsibility in health management in terms of making those choices on how we navigate. So meanwhile, this world is so fluid, of course. That's the direction that we wanted to discuss, rightfully so, at our Board of Education meeting. So we called a special meeting to just say, how does this impact us in the district with this lifting, being able to move? As we've always said, we follow the guidance of the healthcare department. I think I even joked on this call at the beginning of this pandemic, I could barely say epidemiologist, and now I feel like I'm an intern for to become one. That's my next slide. But really just to talk about the impact, and if we're continuing to follow that guidance to make sure that we can ready our families and our staff for what that might look like when masks are a choice of individual families. One thing that I said that night, and I want to continue to say today, and I strongly believe in the concept of it taking a village, and this is not just a school responsibility, but begins at home with families. We need to continue to maintain a culture of respect around choices that families and staff members make. And so we will not have tolerance for bullying if somebody chooses not to mask or to mask. We have a lot of work to do, I'll say, as it relates to our instruction in our classrooms, and we need to focus our human resources on educating our students. And so just want to encourage parents to also be role models and have that conversation with students. So that's where we were at the end of the special meeting. Then yesterday, without notification, the Michigan Department of Human Health Services issued updated guidance for Michiganders on masking. And basically they have shifted, as they prioritize health, to these categories of a response cycle to COVID-19. And they're looking at 3 categories: response, recovery, and readiness. And as I say, I'm just getting this information. I promise you I'll be an expert on it eventually. Today, I'm learning and working on how to communicate out my understanding. But basically, they're looking at us right now as being at a post-surge recovery phase in which they are removing all requirements. So up to this point, the state has been saying a strong recommendation for masking. They are now removing any requirements for masking while we're in a post-surge stage. And what they would indicate is if we're at a response stage, we're looking at an upcoming surge, that we would really think about maybe increasing masking or testing or social distancing. If we're in a readiness stage, which is something that we're expecting to reach another surge, they would advise some different strategies to put in place. But here in post-surge, really looking at the individual responsibility and collective adherence to other mitigation strategies, but not having a recommendation on masking. What I believe then probably took place, I don't know because I wasn't informed ahead of time, is that the local health department, probably in following that guidance, decided let's not wait until February 28th. We're going to go ahead and lift the mandate effective 8 o'clock today. Wish we could have gotten better communication for our families, because the reality is, I think that all school districts are probably dealing with is that families that are choosing not to mask, that will be their right. Families that sent kids to school today with the understanding that we would be masked would need time to ready their students for additional mitigation strategies in the event. So I think for school districts, we're all reeling a little bit. We need time to plan for and communicate appropriately to all families so that they know the direction we're going. So with that being said, we jumped on a call this morning. I'm going to jump back off and continue on our call so that we can get a communication out that would allow us. We don't have school for students tomorrow. It's a PD day. We don't have school on Monday, winter break. But as we resume school on Tuesday, that we would have that in place where we are supporting the recommendation of the Wayne County Health Department, and that would be a choice for masking within the district. I want to emphasize that we have outlined our mitigation strategies. I'm still looking at those to, again, this idea of remaining nimble as we know more, but still emphasizing the strategies that are effective and work, especially as this one layer is changing. So we will still ask and require the daily health screens. And so that's the self-screening that we're asking families to do for their students before coming to school. When we have visitors in the building as well, we ask that they go through the daily screen, and our staff will be asked as well to go through the daily screening. And if there's any symptoms of illness, to stay home. That is an environment where we're encouraging staying home if you're not feeling well. In addition, we're continuing to support good hand hygiene for our students, the use of hand sanitizers. That's not a COVID-19 strategy, that's just good health strategy, right? So we want to keep, we've invested in hand sanitizers across the district. We're not going to go through the district and rip those out. That's just good practice, right, for health. So we'll keep that going. The work that we've done on our HVAC systems, our filters, our internal, that extra layer of air purifiers, and we change our filters every 6 months versus I think that they can last for a year. So we're keeping those in place, opening windows for ventilation. Right now it's really cold, but we'll still encourage our teachers when they're able, and as the weather gets warmer, to just have air circulation where possible. The distancing, we did ask that of the health department. Is there going to be a change as it relates to physical distancing? Remember, early on, there was a 6-foot recommendation. CDC, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and Wayne County moved to a 3 feet when they're looking at the aerosol nature of the virus, but the big droplets are usually falling within 3 feet. So they said schools being low risk areas for secondary transmission, shifted that to 3 feet. We've complied with the 3 feet to the greatest extent possible within our school environments, and there's no indication that that is going to increase at this point. They're only suggesting that they are changing the mask requirement. That's it. One thing that they are discussing, we heard, is the potential of some shifts to the dashboard. Right now, we are required by law to post our cases daily on the dashboard. So you're able to go on the dashboard and see how many positive cases we have in the district each day. If that changes, we'll communicate with our families, but right now we still do that. And then the letters, so that is our basic requirement, is to just put the cases on the dashboard. We also are doing case notification letters. We've gotten some feedback from families, especially as we've gone through the pandemic, like it's information overload. Some schools do the school-wide notice, some schools do the by classroom. So we are moving towards just a weekly notification so that you'll know daily. You check the website, that'll show you daily where the cases are, but just sending that communication out as a school-wide communication daily to say these are the cases, but always just being mindful of awareness that, especially as other mitigation strategies are lifted, just being aware that cases do exist until the day that they don't, which I'm really looking forward to. So with that, plan would be to get out a communication to our families today. As soon as I get out of the call, a couple more meetings and get that out, and still continue to emphasize the other mitigation factors that are in play. And we really do put a lot on our buildings to implement those district-wide mitigation factors. So for example, when we look at lunch, I do want to clarify, try to each time, we say as a district, we try to the greatest extent possible get the 3 feet distancing in place. Some schools have assigned seats, some schools don't. I think most secondary schools don't. What we've said to our building principals is you stay within the parameters and you manage your building. So we're not going to tell you to assign seats. You just have to be responsible in the event that there's an outbreak, that you are able to know who's sitting where. So just leaving some of those decisions within the district parameters to the buildings to manage, as they always will. I know that there's been some confusion and some old mitigation strategies that have come in play. One thing has been the talk around Valentine's. I think at the beginning of the pandemic, we were quarantining things and not sharing items. And as we learn more about the virus and not getting COVID off of items, we shifted. But maybe at some schools, some old communication went out. So just trying to clarify with our buildings what those mitigation strategies are, to ensure that there's adherence and consistency moving forward, but also having some responsibility for management within that individual building. So with that, 2 things I think I neglected to say. We are still enforcing the mask mandate on buses. So there is a federal mandate for transportation. I know that comment I think came up at citizens comment that buses aren't included, but they are actually included as a part. They call it a conveyance in specifically in the federal mandate, call out school buses. So we'll share that link to that information in our communication today so parents are aware. So until we're told differently from a federal level, we will require masks on school buses for staff and students. And also from MDHHS's new guidance when they reduced the quarantine and isolation protocols as a condition of mask to stay if there is a positive case and the student or staff is feeling better on day 6, they may return to school. However, they have to mask on day 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that is still in play for anybody who has a positive case. They would still mask to stay. If they don't want to mask, then they would need to quarantine for the full 10 days. So again, getting that information out to our community and ready to move forward with the next hurdle that I'm sure will be in front of us probably before I can blink. So I'll take any questions that you may have on that. And again, I'm also looking at the time for you and for me. So let's take some burning questions and then I'm gonna get out of here because I think the majority of us probably want to hear from me about where we're going.
Just wanted to say thank you, Monica, for your transparency and just, fluency and your knowledge of all this and explaining it all to us. I just appreciate that. And I feel like we got it firsthand. So thank you for everyone who's on the call. You already got it from our own Superintendent Merritt. So thank you again for being here and taking that time because I know you're very, very busy.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Hey, Monica, I just have a quick question. And first of all, for anybody who didn't go to the meeting on Tuesday night, Monica did a phenomenal job, I think, handling that meeting and just keeping things under control and calm. And so first of all, Monica, thank you so much for that. And for all of your leadership through all of this. My only question I have for you is I'm a little bit confused about your statement regarding the distancing measures. As you know, that has been my biggest concern this entire school year. Masks are not a thing for me. I don't care about whatever is decided on that. But the distancing measure is concerning to me. And what I don't understand is if we're now moving into quote unquote recovery, in the MDHHS stuff, it sort of doesn't really mention social distancing. And so I would like some clarification, as much as you have, I guess, on that, in terms of if we're still in the distancing phase of this, what is the next metric that they're looking for to get rid of the distancing then? Because I think there's a little bit confusion. So any clarity you have at this point? I know that could change and you may not have that right now. I appreciate that. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
so I'll just give you very high level. In our call this morning, that's actually a question that we have out to the health department to just get official guidance, again, trying to follow, and they haven't shifted that guidance for us. So that's why we're still following it. But I also want to say, in the meantime, what we talked about is how that impacts us in terms of our instructional delivery model, right? And so when we say to the greatest extent possible, so we're still trying to ensure that spacing, and remember that it's also center of head to center of head. So it's not 3 feet in between people. It really is not that much difference from where we normally have a classroom setup, but we're still ensuring, which I think is actually a good thing, that we have small class sizes because of it. And I would recommend that we even keep that going a little bit longer. It's a big investment. It's 20 teachers is 1.5 million, but it's worth it. But even I know that because of the distancing within the classroom, some classrooms haven't been able to use rug time with kids, but that's not a mitigation strategy that we're saying. We still allow instructional practices to take place that have kids working in groups, have kids sitting together in circle time, things along those lines. And so just kind of working with our buildings to make sure that there's an understanding that as that parameter is in place, that doesn't mean that kids can't move throughout the day. But an official move beyond the 3 feet as guidance is something that we've asked of the health department, and we would wait until we had that official word before we would remove that from our mitigation strategy. And that's as much as I know right now. And I might know more today, and I might not. And I might know it as soon as you know it, the way things go. You might know it before I know it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.
So I guess I have just a quick question, and I'm not sure it'll be exactly easy. So that we're kind of looking at like our exit ramp right now as far as the transition to the next phase in this endemic, right? I guess being that I have had students at one of the schools that has had definitely the higher numbers because we have a very high population and a high concentration of kids. And we're still getting, at least several days. It hasn't been every day like it was, but we're still, I was wondering if we had accounted for most of those 7, cases. But being at one of those higher population, higher number of viruses in this, I'm wondering, will we have something in place to ensure that our kids are still able to, and our staff and our principals are able to handle in person, like before we lose in-person instruction, which has been our family's focus. It's like, let's do what we can do to keep our kids in the classroom, to keep them, in contact with their teachers and in contact with their peers. Will we be hopefully looking at, as we exit this part, something that might be able to, it may be in a particular school's instance, be able to save not having a whole 6th grade quarantine or have to do virtual, if that makes sense?
Yes.
Are we still looking at, even though we don't have high numbers, looking at what we might be able to do to take a step back if we need that, if higher numbers come to be at a particular school or a particular classroom or a particular area?
So it's a big question, and know that
yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Right now, I will just share again what the metric is that is currently in place, and so we haven't shifted that metric. But again, we have daily conversations around and recognizing that there could be a little bit of a blip right now as we shift maybe some increased cases, we don't know. I do want to say something that you shared, Judy, with the 7 cases. Remember that those are all just school associated cases. So if there's a case that didn't occur within a school associated case, that means a student or staff member wasn't in a school building within 48 hours. There could still be positive cases at your district that are not reported. So you might have higher numbers. Some people have questioned, like, is that a transparency? I know we have more cases. Why does it only say we have 1? So there could definitely be more cases. But the metric right now that's in place is in an elementary classroom, if there's greater than 51% of the students that are out for COVID-related reasons, meaning they're either quarantined or positive cases, and that's affecting the continuity of learning, that triggers a discussion to say, do we take that class for a remote situation? We would now be, before we were looking at 2-week window, that would now be a 5-day according to the new guidelines. And again, like we've done an entire grade level, to your point, would we have to continue to do that? It makes it a little bit more difficult when you're at a secondary school, because if the student is not in that same class with the same peers for 6 different times. So really kind of just have to look at a case-by-case basis to say, where is the impact there? So that parameter is the 25% that we use at secondary to say if 25% of a grade level or a school is out or quarantined, to have that conversation. Do we need to make a shift for everyone to virtual learning? The goal is always to keep in person when we're able to do so. And when we have the majority of the students able to be in person with us, then we have now some additional strategies that our teachers are allowing for students that are quarantined to, they have 3 choices basically. They can Zoom into a classroom. They can have a recorded lesson by the teacher so that they're not missing instruction, or they can actually be just like a webinar, so they're not able to engage, but they can see the classroom. So with those kind of options available to us, that's why I say trigger a discussion. It doesn't mean that we're like, oh, we're at 51%, we're going to shut this classroom down, because if we have that ability to allow students to attend virtually, we can make that choice as well. So big question, we're talking about it. Goal always to remain in person, but know that we do have those parameters in place that we're not changing at this point. They may change. That would indicate, let's have a conversation around what mode of instruction is best for this classroom or grade level or building at this time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I know it was a huge question, so I apologize.
No worries. I'm going to
thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. I know you have to hop back on your call. I appreciate you being here on such a day, because I know it has been a full day already and it's only 11:30. So I appreciate, good luck today. And we thank you very much for your leadership and your transparency and everything that you offer us every day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Everybody have a great long weekend. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, I had one small item that was communicated to us by Dana Jones, who is connected with our early childhood development learning department. And she wanted to make sure that we communicated to you that there will be an early childhood open house for our youngest learners. And I would have to say it was 11 years ago this month that we actually trekked across town an hour to do this exact same open house for my daughter, who's now in 9th grade. So they will have an Allen Early Learning Center open house on Wednesday, February 23rd from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Staff from every single site that is available to meet, or will be available to meet families. They have classes for our youngest learners who are 2. They also have the 3 and 4-year-old programs, preschool programs, for those who will be 3 and 4 in fall of 2022-2023 school year. For those of you who have not been familiar, the classes for the 2-year-olds where parents actually accompany them for the stay and play class. I think all of us who had our 2-year-olds in that, we love Miss Tammy and Mrs. T, who are still teaching those classes now at Allen. So they just wanted to make sure that they know that current families Their registration opens on February 28th for priority for current families, and the open enrollment for brand new families opens on March 9th. And information about classes and registration is on the district website. Carly or Nick, if you can pull up, there's actually a schedule that shows the district sites that hold both the 2, 3, and 4-year-old classes. We will put this in our minutes for this month so that you can access those there, or you can go right to the website today, and those sites, times, days, pricing is all available there. But that open house again is February 23rd, and you can actually meet the teachers for each one of the sites. So let your neighbors know if they have youngsters. Such a good program, and we're so lucky to have that available to us locally and at so many different sites. So that being said, those are all of my items that we have. Nick, do you have anything else?
I do, yeah. I was actually going to mention the preschool, the early childhood open house. So I'm glad you did. First and foremost, thank you, Judy, rest of the Parent Council Board. Fantastic meeting, and so glad that Superintendent Merritt could join us as well. Just a few other updates that would be great for our Parent Council reps to take back to their PTOs or other organizations. We launched this week, actually late last week, a budget feedback forum for community members. This is an annual process that we do in collaboration with the Board of Education. What this is it gives our community really an open forum to offer feedback as we build the budget for next fiscal year, which is actually July 1st through June 30th, 2022 to 2023. And we've done this the last few years. It's obviously a key part of our budget process to make sure that we receive the voice of our community. It's a pretty short form, and you can suggest activities, expenditures, savings. You can tell us kind of what category it's in, and then there's an opportunity for you to give some free response information about your idea. You also can even leave your email address or phone number if you'd like, so we could reach out and maybe get more information or ask some more questions if we're looking for that. But this is really the way to make sure that your voice is part of our budget process and the way that we build our annual budget. So this will live on the district website for the next week. It'll close on Friday, February 25th. And all you have to do is visit pccsk12.com. It's the first thing that you'll see when you visit. Click on that slider and up comes the survey. So please take a look at that. A couple other quick ones. Yesterday, we posted an updated list of transportation route rotations for our bus cancellations. Again, we're trying our best to be proactive as we plan ahead for these transportation cancellations. Of course, as all of you know, we still have daily cancellations that are happening, but this has really limited the number of those that we've had to do each day. So this list is updated as of February 16th. Affected families have been communicated with directly, but it's still good for you to take a look and keep it handy. We mentioned the early childhood open house for sure. We are having a vaccination clinic on Wednesday, February 23rd. This is from 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. in the Canton High School cafeteria, which is right across from the main office. There's a pre-registration link that lives in this particular news item on the official district website. Once again, that's February 23rd, 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. And that's for initial doses, boosters, all eligible ages. Just make sure you pre-register before if you're going to be part of that. And then one last item. As I said in the podcast that launched yesterday, I would sing happy birthday, but trust me, nobody wants to hear me sing. And the reason why is because we are wishing 881 The Park a happy 50th birthday this week. Our student-run radio station launched on February 14th of 1972. On that day, they actually did 6 hours of programming. So a lot has changed for sure. What has not changed is just the incredible impact that 881 The Park has had on our community and most importantly, our students. It's a fully run student radio station. Of course, we love our managers, Bill Keith and John Krieger, but students are at the heart of this work, and 881 The Park is such an important part of our community. So wish them a happy birthday, 50 years of this. And this Saturday, actually one of the key fundraisers for 881 The Park will take place with the record show that happens every year. We've had to take the last couple of years off, but that's Saturday at Salem High School, if anyone's interested in directly supporting 881 The Park. But we're so proud of the work that happens there. We wish them a very happy 50th birthday. And that concludes the district report. President Hart, right back to you.
Thank you very much, Nick. Well, happy birthday, 881. We have a definite gem for our area that not everybody gets to have in their community. So we're very grateful for that. Thank you so much to all of our parents for being here today, for sharing your time and your energy with us. We appreciate your just taking time out of your day. Those of you who are watching later on at our official P-CCS YouTube channel, thank you for being here. If you have any questions for our speakers or for any of the leaders who are here today, feel free to reach out to us at parentcouncil@pccsk12.com, and we'll be happy to pass on those questions. We do, in fact, have a March meeting as well. We hope that we might be in person, and that is March 18th. Does anyone have that available? March 18th is ringing in my ears. And I know that we, as parent council.
It is March 18th,
March
Judy,
18th.
at
Thank
11:30
you.
a.m. Yep.
Thank you. We have been trying very hard to vary our days, times, and the way that we make it accessible to all of our parents. So yes, parent council meeting, March 18th. This is a lunchtime meeting for those of you who might be able to, sneak to the parent council meeting on your lunch break, 11:30 to 1:30. We are planning, it's not often that I know our agenda what this far in advance, but we are planning on having a discussion with Dr. Lilly, who is our Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We may be looking at some of the more detailed aspects of her program and some of the teachings that go along with that. And we will also be looking at the leaders who will be leading the mental health fair later in May, and we will be hearing from them. So thank you all for being here. Again, PCCS.
I have a quick question for Nick, if you don't mind. My president, the PTO president, wanted me to ask this. This was even before all this stuff happened today with the mask mandate, but for future events at school, like the skating station and like face-to-face PTO meetings, has there been any, I know today, the stuff today might change it all, but has there been any talks of like letting that stuff happen again that you know of, or?
Yeah, for sure. There have been a lot of talks about it. Obviously, today is a really significant day for that. So, but it's important feedback because it's something that's really on our radar as well. So we will make a lot of decisions, I believe, in the coming days and hopefully a few weeks. And we'll make sure and communicate that out. But it's certainly on our radar for sure. And I appreciate you bringing it up, Anne-Marie.
Thank you.
And again, one last thing, not to belabor the time, but something else I wanted to put out there was there were COVID test kits to be picked up back like when we had the snow day and it got canceled. And then I guess they moved it, but it's a different time and it's at a different location. And were there other times and dates that they could be picked up? And if so, you may not know now, but could you share it maybe in an email or give us that information at a later time?
We definitely will, yeah. And the plan is to continue to make as many different opportunities to pick those up as possible at different days and times of the week. So as soon as we have those confirmed, we'll communicate those out. Same with further vaccination clinics too. As soon as we work with Wayne County Health Department on those, we'll make sure to get that information out. Thanks, Antoinette. Glad you brought that up.
No problem. Thank you.
You bet.
So after thanking our parents for being here, Nick, thank you so much for the wealth of information that you always offer us. The up to the minute district updates and that. So thank you for helping us, both Nick and Carly Rays. Thank you so much for making it happen technologically and otherwise. For Monica being here, for Anthony Ruella, Kathy Williams, as well as Mark Salzer and Andrew Steinman, who were our speakers today. And thank you very much, our Parent Council Board, Antoinette, Anne-Marie, as well as Pam Cornell Allen, who had to leave, and Andrea Schultz, who is here afterward taking notes and helping us out in that regard. Thank you all very much, and we hope to see everyone on March 18th at 11:30. With that, sorry, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Wait, nope. Looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I motion to adjourn.
Thank you very much.
I second.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your patience. We will call this meeting adjourned, and we will see you all on March 18th.
Good. Bye, everyone. Good to see you, Mr. Weaver.